Welcome to K Warner Studio. Today we have 10 cards, 1 kit from the August 2017 Love from Lizi card kit. Love from Lizi kits are from the UK, and as such, the card stock is international standard. In order to change these to North American letter standard, it is required that you remove a half an inch off the longest end. So on the landscape, make a cut at 11. This also will affect your 4¼ inch. That will change to 4 1/8 because the cardstock is narrower. So depending on which card you choose to make, you make a cut at 5½ or 4 1/8. These both fold and fit into an A2 size envelope quite comfortably. Card 1 is made with the top fold landscape card. The cut was at 5½ and the score at 4 1/8. I did some prep work in that I cut out die cuts from Spellbinder's What's Cooking. Out of the red cardstock that was included in the kit, I applied Nouveau dimensional glaze to the front of the mixer and the handle of the whisk. I then took a doily. I attached this to the great quilted pattern paper that was included in the kit. On top of that, I applied the burlap with the sparkly fragments on top of the doily. I then have a 3/4 circle that has cross stitch. I place that on the top of those two items, and then I laid my die cuts how I just wanted them with Nouveau glue. I cut 2 strips which matched the pattern paper on the outside. I attached them to the inside panel. I attached the inside to the card, and that's card number 1. Card 2 was also a top folding landscape card that made out of vanilla cardstock that was included in the kit. I took the multicolored dotted pattern paper and cut that into a strip to fit down the center of the card. I also used the border stamp in the stamp set. I stamped that with Desert Sand Memento ink on each side of the dotted paper. 2 pieces of green cardstock that coordinated with the dots were cut in strips to make my own peel-offs. I also used Love from Lizi chocolate peel-offs on this card. I took the red shimmer paper and cut that into a scallop square. I attached the vellum tag to vanilla cardstock with double-sided adhesive. I attached that vanilla square to the red shimmer paper, and I attached that to the front. I then took Memento Love Letter ink and stamped the lips as well as Kiss the Cook. I fussy cut the Kiss the Cook. I attached the items to the card as well as the sentiment, and that is card number 2. Card 3 is a top folding portrait card. This card was scored at 5½ and cut at 4 1/8. I took Memento Rich Cocoa ink and I applied that to the small brick MFT background stamp on the lower portion of vanilla cardstock. I cut a strip of the gold shimmer paper and I laid that on top of the stamp portion. I then took a vellum tag and cut the shape out, and I attached that with double-sided adhesive to a cork tag that was included and cut them both down to fit. I attached that to the front of the card. I then took a piece of pattern paper that had apples and had that cut with a die to look like a valance, and that is card 3. Card 4 is made out of black cardstock that came in the kit. I used some acetate and cut that down to make a nice window card. I applied double-sided tape on the inside, and then I checked to make sure that I had the right dimensions of the acetate. I laid that gingerly on the inside and making sure that it was bumped up against the score line, and then I folded that in on top of itself to make sure that everything was in there topsy-turvy. It's easier to do it now than try to trim it later. I then took another vellum tag and extended it with the red pattern paper. I attached the same red pattern paper to the backing where this particular vellum was going to be attached. I took the frame that was cut out of the front portion and I attached very thin dimensional foam to the back of that. I removed the backing, and then I positioned the red vellum on the inside of that, so it looks as though it's framed. Then I took this frame and I checked it for size against the front cover of this card. I applied adhesive to it, and then I folded the back in on top of that to make sure it was in there nicely. And that is this card. Card number 5 is another top folding portrait card. This one was made out of the stamp set that was included in the kit. I stamped that 5 times along watercolor cardstock, as well as the leaves on each one, and then 3 separate leaves. I painted them with some watercolor paints, and as well as the additional leaves. I fooled around with the leaves a little bit so that they'd be a little more dimensional, and I attached them with Nouveau glue by the tops. I then cut 2 black and white pieces of pattern paper, attached them on both sides as well as the red shimmer paper, and I ran them through the sewing machine down both sides. I took the black and red cherry paper and I laid that along the bottom of a vanilla piece of cardstock to decorate the inside, as well as I placed a strip of the red shimmer paper on top of that. I secured that to the inside of the card. I added a lot of Nouveau glue to the back side of this watercolor paper to ensure that it stayed on there nice. There was minimal buckling, but I wanted to make sure that it stayed on there nicely. Now once I had that, so I liked it and I felt it was on there well, I cut out a die from Technique Tuesday. It's fabulous, and I applied that to the bottom edge of the card. I also used some thin dimensional tape along the bottom edge so that that would be level with the card base. And then I took a Nouveau glue pen and I attached additional glue behind the tops of the letters, and I secured that onto the front of the card. And that's it for this card. Card number 6, the same black and white check. I used that on this card. This is a side fold landscape card. I took the black and white paper, as I said, and I cut that almost as large as the card front. I attached 2 stripe papers on right next to that, and then matched that in pattern on each side, as well as a thicker strip of that, and put it on the inside vanilla panel for this card. Once I had that done, I laid this on top of the card front. But before I did that, sorry, I used my Love from Lizi chocolate brown peel-offs on each side where the pattern stripes met the black and white paper, so you didn't see the joint. I then cut 2 gold strips of the shimmery paper, and I attached that right up against the other side of that pattern paper on the card base. So they went on each side of that. I stamped a kiss from Love Letter ink, and I fussy cut that out. Next I take the scissors and I trim that down to make sure I have all of those edges snug up against the card. card base, and then I take another vellum tag and I attach this with double-sided adhesive. I lay that down on top of the inside portion of the black and red window card and trim that down so that it looks more like a scroll kind of sign. And then I attach that with black dimensional foam to the front of this card. And that's that. That completes that card. And now we're on to card number 7. This is a shaker card. I took another one of the vellum tags and I put double-sided adhesive on the back of that, and I attached that directly to a piece of vanilla cardstock. Previously I cut a window out of my top layer as well as the top of the cardstock, and I laid that down on top of that piece because that's what's going to cover the hole, and I drew where the opening was so that I could lay that in the center. I also cut out some paper to match the outside for the inside so that it would be all color coordinated. I took the Nouveau glue pen and I ran that down both edges of the card front, and I took the gingham, which is on the inside of the card, and ran it down both sides of that card front. Then I applied glue to the front panel. It's attached there with washi. I kept everything all together while I cut it out on the die cutting machine, and I glued that down as well, making sure that I pay particular attention to keep that hole clear. I stamped Kiss the Cook with cocoa, the actual stamp itself, to outline the sentiment with rich cocoa, but I stamped the sentiment with the love letter red. I applied double-sided tape to the inside portion of that square, and then I also had cut out 2 pieces of foam which I put adhesive on to keep them snug. I applied double-sided adhesive to that as well and applied the 2 of those together. The acetate was cut a little bit bigger than the hole, and that was placed on top of the double-sided tape that was immediately on the back of the card base, and then that foam was attached to the acetate. Just checking to make sure everything was going to glue down great so that nothing obstructed the view to the window. And then I'm going to flip this over. Oh, but first I put my peel-offs all around the perimeter as well as the bottom of the window. And then I applied the sequins. I added a few and red ones as well as aqua ones from my stash. This was the cookies and cream mix. I wanted to bring in the colors of the paper. And then I put some more double-sided tape around the foam so that when I attached my backing there with the cook, that would be in the center. So I'm just removing the backing, and then I'm going to position the inside piece to that. And then I just line that up with the score line because I knew where the image was going to sit. And there we have it. And then I'm finishing cutting out my Kiss the Cook. Cut out the banner, and then I apply that right below the shaker card window. And it's could be a nice masculine card, I would think. Most men love to eat. And there you go. So that's the end of that card. The next one is a top fold landscape card, and this was really easy. I just took one of the tags, I applied double-sided adhesive, the wide roll stuff, to the backing of it. But first I took the black and red cherry paper and I cut a strip and I applied that to the bottom of the inside layer to the card. I also cut out a shimmery red scallop square, another one of the heart vellum pieces. I cut the heart out and I laid that on top of the red vellum, or sorry, the red shimmery paper, and I placed that in the center of the inside. The tag that was covered in vellum was just laid on the top of this vanilla cardstock panel, and I took the velvet ribbon in the kit and I laid that down first, and then I used red ribbon from my own stash, and then I just applied that to the front panel, and then I applied the panel to the card base, and that made that card. Card number 9 was made from the mint green, and this is a side folding landscape card. I just wanted to layer up the different colors in this beautiful strawberry pattern paper. So green was the base, and then I picked out the shimmery red and yellow, and then I just layered them. So I used white, shimmery red, yellow, and then the pattern paper. I cut the die in the kit twice, one from red and one from the mint green, and then I layered them. I made them kind of off center a bit so that one would outline the other. In this case, the red outlined the green. I used the Nouveau liquid pen and put those down there quite nicely and set them off to dry. Set up pretty good. It wasn't that difficult to line up. Some of them can be, but this was a good one to work with. Just put a little bit of pressure there to put them off. I put a little slit on the side so that I could lace some ribbon right through the center of this card. And then I helped it through with my utility knife, my tonic knife. And then after I finished this, I cut a piece of card so that I could cover the inside cover and that you wouldn't see that upon opening the card. And then I took my stacks of white, red, and yellow and designer paper, strawberry paper, and I laid that over the ribbon. A little offside so that it had some interest. And then I took the little gold rhinestones and I applied those, 3 of them on the front of the card. And then I took the Nouveau glue pen and I saturated the back of that Made with Love die cut, and I laid that in the center. A little bit off. I turned it a little bit to the left so that it drew your eye into the card. And then I danced those rhinestones around that Made with Love. And that's that card. Now card 10. Card 10 was made with the yellow cardstock. This is a top folding landscape card. I cut a strip of the apple pattern paper and I laid that on top of the bronze shimmer paper. I glued one on top of the other. I cut out of the die cut the whisk in the bowl with the shimmery red paper. I also used some gold thread as well as the gold shimmer paper. So we have 2 different colors on here of shimmer paper. So I attached the bronzy color with the apple pattern paper through the center of the yellow cardstock. I then, with the yellowy gold shimmer paper, I cut out a pocket, a paper smooches die that I've had forever, and I attached that to the front to make like a little drawer. And in that I put the shimmery red die cuts. But before I did that, I put some gold thread behind them so that you notice them a little more. It doesn't really pick up so well in the video, but I can see it is quick as anything. So I put some foam adhesive behind the bowl and just on the handle so that the whisk part would lay against the bowl. I stamped Made with Love out of the cocoa ink. I put a strip of the apples inside on the bottom as well as I attached that to the bronzy shimmer paper. And then in an old Love from Lizi kit, I had some gold peel-offs which I applied to the front and in the inside. I then took the burlap shiny ribbon and I attached double-sided tape to that, and I cut it in half, and I applied that to the back of the yellow cardstock, and I just have it peeking out a little bit on the top of this card. I folded it in half once it was on the back, so it's only a quarter of it, and that's put on each side. So it gives the card dimension. It stands up off of the card itself, and then I had a little ink smudge on the front, so then I thought it was a good time to pull out the rhinestones. And a little bit ahead of myself here. So I put that on, and then I folded it under. You'll see here in a second. I put so much tape on it because I thought that it would help with it from fraying a bit, and that was the method to the madness. So I laid the tape on the inside, and then I'm just going to tuck that over so you just see a hint of the shimmer on the top of the bottom. I like to take my bone folder and push down this tape whenever I'm putting it on a textured surface. That double-sided adhesive that I'm using is also from Love from Lizi's shop. And then I folded it on that side. You can see it's only about 1/4 of an inch of the burlap. And then I trim those edges down, flush with the card. Throw on some foam tape, 3M foam tape along the back. And once I have this trimmed off, I get the 3M tape. I put 3 strips down. If you can't see it, guys, there you go. One on each end and one through the center. And then I apply some rhinestones. I couldn't make up my mind if I wanted one more, and then I decided, yeah, I would put one more on there. And then I had to move that little one a little bit. There we go. And that's that. So that's 10 cards, 1 kit. I enjoyed this kit. So thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy day to spend it with me. Bye-bye.